Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another live. I'm a lot later than I meant to be. Kind of a fun morning. One of those days that your computer decides to do things, and you got to figure it all out. But basically had to kind of restart everything. Luckily, I was able to get everything back, but it was one of those. Got to spend 2 hours just to set up my computer again. So. Other than that, been a fun morning. Cool. Well, I'll kind of wait a little bit, give everyone some time to trickle in. Feel free to ask questions. Comment regarding superset question. What was comment regarding superset question? I'm looking back through some of the comments from, it looks like yesterday. There's more there. I'm just looking at yesterday's. Someone asked, data engineering asked me anything. Hello, everyone. I'm going to be looking through some memes. These are my memes, so if anyone wants to send me memes, I should probably, it'd be cool if we could eventually start having people send content you want me to read in the Discord. Someone sent me, told me I should read Lauren Bollock stuff, which maybe someday I will. That's going to be a brave day, just because you got to be ready to hear some spicy opinions, and I've read a lot of her stuff, and we've actually I've subcontracted with her, so she had me on some early projects with her. Also, if anyone ever does want to share, I'm gonna put my Discord into the chat because you guys can join and just share. Actually, I realized maybe I need to create a space for you to actually add them. For now, I've just put them in the YouTube videos, but in the YouTube video section. So that's where I've kind of asked people to post some thoughts. If no one has any questions, I can kind of get in here. This was an article I put back out in January. I'm trying to push away a little bit from only doing memes because I'm trying to do more technical, do more technical diagrams. Memes get attention, but I don't know if they capture as much. They don't share as much knowledge. They're definitely good for connecting and people understanding. Hi, how am I? I'm great. Again, had something kind of crap out last night at like 1 a.m. Not 1 a.m. like 12:30 while I was working. I don't know what happened. I just couldn't sign back into my computer. Suddenly, somehow got locked out and had to kind of reset everything. So it's because I decided to set my computer so securely, I guess. That I have to kind of redo everything. But other than that, good. All right, so memes in the data world. So this one, I definitely like using the bus meme. I think getting hit by buses always is kind of funny because it's you working on an amazing dashboard, and then you always have that person who taps you on the shoulder and says, "Actually, can we just get that in Excel?" I think this resonates with most of us who have ever built any form of dashboard or any sort of data product, just because you end up building it and you put all this effort into it, and then suddenly people are like, "Nah, we don't actually want that. We just want to be able to play around with the numbers in Excel." And it's like, well, I could have just given you that in a table. Again, feel free to send some articles if you've got anything you'd like me to read. But if not, I'm going to just keep kind of plowing through here. And then maybe we can talk some more. This is just a good warm up as I'm waiting for y'all to either ask questions or get, maybe pick up another piece of content. The next one, I think that generally I found has done well. And I usually say it's funny because a lot of people seem to resonate with it. Is the classic, this data team supports 1,050 dashboards. I just picked 1,050 because it was a random number and nobody's looked at them. So I think, again, we've just been all there and experienced that whole place where it feels like, wow, despite us putting all this effort into build all these dashboards, it doesn't matter because no one looks at them. I mean, there's a lot of ways to avoid this. I think Facebook actually implemented and I think now Looker has this, and a few other tools might have this, where they have a tool to help get rid of old dashboards. If no one's used those dashboards for a certain amount of time, you just deprecate them. And I think that generally makes sense. Hi, I'm new here. Where can I learn data engineering for free? There's a few, obviously, places. I mean, there's some videos that I have that are all free. I think Zach Wilson has a ton of videos that are free. as well. I have, let me just pull up this checklist. Here, I'll go here, and then I gotta go to Substack. I have a whole checklist. It's like, and I need to like pin these somehow to chats because everyone always asks this. So this should be free. Here's a 100-day kind of checklist you can go through. You can go through yourself at your own pace. It'll probably take you more than 100 days. I just use that as a good example. I think most people, unless you have complete free time, most people will take longer than 100 days. All right. Next kind of meme that I feel like I think I came up with this meme because I was talking to people who constantly. I was talking to some some people in data leadership, and they told me how they felt like it was easier to hire data scientists and data analysts because they could very easily like tell their management like, hey, they're going to deliver stuff, right? And so then they'd hire data scientists and data analysts, and then they'd figure out, well, it's really hard to work with data scientists, data analysts if they don't have anything, right? Like it's really hard for them to work if you haven't given them clean data to actually work with. And so this was something that kind of came out of that. It was like me thinking about this meme. Don't forget, like, guys. Oh yeah, like, guys, like and subscribe. No, I mean, I appreciate all your times, and again, always appreciate y'all sending me content to look at, read, and I'm always going to try to share more of what I have. So yeah, let's keep going. So first day on the job. So this is just because every company I've ever worked at, not every company, that's not true. Facebook was a good example, and actually the startup I worked for was actually really clean. So really, every company I've ever worked at as a consultant. Okay, not every. I should stop saying every. A lot of companies that I've worked at, consultant, or and even my first company that I worked at, like you come in there and it's just a mess, right? Like everything seems to be so taped together. You're just like come in, and even though the job description seemed so promising, you're like, wow, this job description is great. We're going to use all the cool tools. You come in and everyone's data is always a mess, and I think I'm a little biased there because part of the reason I come in to most companies, or why companies might call me to consult, is because things are a mess. Like you don't bring in a consultant. Generally, things aren't either a mess or you don't have a skill set. So generally, I have a little bit of a bias there. Where it's like, yeah, a lot of the data infrastructure I see is a mess, but also most of the companies that call me are because it is a mess, not because data is a mess. So I do have to sometimes look at that with a little bit of bias, or like with that little thing. So this meme was based on the fact that I really did have this happen where I had a pretty simple ask for a vendor where I was like, look, I just need to kind of move data from point A to point B. It's big, but if you could do it and it's like 10 or 20K, that'd be great, right? Like that's a very simple ask. And they then basically quoted me like $200,000. And I was like, I could literally pay someone. My kind of response to them was like, I can pay someone to manually move the file cheaper than what you were offering me, essentially, right? Like I don't need you for 200K for what we're asking. It's a very simple use case. So this was just kind of a funny thought. Giant flash. Must have been a car passing. Or a nuclear bomb. It was very flashy. Oh no, it was just the mail truck. All right. Yes, this one. You should fix data at the source. So this one, you kind of can see the data engineer just slapping SQL case statements on top of everything. Every data issue can always be fixed with SQL case statements. Remember that. This is a little bit, it's, how would I put it? In a perfect world, right, we would not be doing this. So I can make fun of the fact that like we just always put SQL on everything. But in reality is even if we were able to fix it at the source, or even like most of the time, even if you go and ask someone to fix it at the source, it's just really hard to get whoever is on the other side to fix it at the source because they're busy. Like when I worked at Facebook, there's a few cases like this where I wanted people to fix things at the source, and I'd be like, hey, can you put this enumerable? What am I trying to think? Why am I forgetting the word right now? Enumerable object. Enumerable object. Yeah, enumerable object. Can you, instead of putting it in only on the application side, can you put it into the database, so that I don't have to figure out that I'm missing new essentially values that you add in? Because that's what would happen is they would add in new values into this drop down somewhere that was just basically stored as the data in the code and not in a database. And then I would have to figure out, hey, we're missing some categories. So I had to set up a data quality check just to be like, oh, let me go ask this person. And even though I talked to them multiple times, it was just one of those things that didn't get fixed. It was, as someone once put it, it was like fighting windmills. You're trying to do the right thing, but it's really sometimes just feels very frivolous. But always, as much as you can, fix things at the source. Always try, but sometimes you kind of gotta choose what works and go forward. What is the biggest perk of working in Fang? Is it the free food and the laundry? And you can't say money or stock options, like career-wise. I think career-wise, like, well, one, I'd argue that free food and laundry, I don't really see how that helps with your food-wise either, or not food, like career-wise either. But outside of the money, the big thing is that, like, you're working with a lot of really smart people, right? Like, you're working with a lot of people that are driven, that want to do more, that are trying to figure out what that is. And so I think that's the big thing, is you're working with a lot of smart people. People could say, I guess, that, like, oh, if you work at a Fang, in some cases, depending on the team you're working on, maybe you kind of like aren't trying to challenge yourself, right? Like, the real thing you should do is do a startup. I think the problem with doing a startup is, you're not going to you possibly won't make money. Like, it could be good for your career, depending on the startup. But it might not be. It might just be some startup that no one's ever heard of. So if you do, let's say, instead of going for a Fang, if what are your options between a Fang and a startup, I would make sure that the people you're working with are really solid. If you're going for the startup, like, are really technically solid, not just people that say they're technically solid, not just people that say they only hire A+ team members. Like, they've got some track record of either they themselves already working somewhere and delivering something. Again, it doesn't have to be a Fang, but like working somewhere where they knew how to deliver code, because it's really hard, I feel like, to bring products to market and put it out there and then get it noticed by people. So if you've already done it somewhere else, it's going to be easier. So I wouldn't, unless it's your startup, maybe risk, or you really like the idea, risk going down the startup route, unless you really believe in the founders and you can really learn a lot from them. So. But yeah, the big thing is, like, again, people. It's the people that are there. They're all smart. And it's kind of fun. All right. The Airflow is easy until it's not. This one, I mean, if you've used Airflow, I think you kind of might know this, right? Airflow is one of those things that works really well, or like seems really easy. I shouldn't say it works really well. Seems really easy when you get started, right? Building a DAG, building your first basic DAG is very straightforward, right? You do the hello world of Airflow. I think someone might have asked me that recently. Or maybe it was just data engineering. But yeah, you do the hello world of Airflow, which is like the echo some stuff using the bash operator and do a basic Python operator. And that's it, right? And then it's like, wow, this works. This is great. Let me, keep adding on to this. But as soon as you try to scale out Airflow, there's just a lot of little things that you'll make mistakes on. Like, I worked with a client where they what is it called? They had the entire Airflow what would you call it? Like, repo. All of it was one repo. So the DAGs were in the same repo as Airflow itself. So if I made changes to a DAG, I had to redeploy Airflow every time. So it was much more difficult to deploy. And then they at least had a good CI/CD process. Like, it was a click of a button and everything got deployed, and there was never a problem. So that was really nice. Like, it was all set up and would be spun up on a server and Docker, and it was internal, and that was nice. But the fact that, like, if I had a long running job, I basically either had to wait for that long running job to end or kill it in the middle of when it was running. And so it makes testing really, really hard. Like, you can't iterate, or you have to download it locally, and you have other problems too. they don't have a test version. But that's, I guess, the way a lot of people do is they'll just locally use it. But I kind of like having like a test environment. But yeah, so it's easy until it's not. The other thing is like sometimes spinning up scale, but that just depends on who you are. Could always use some. Yeah, we gotta cry. We gotta laugh a little. Yesterday was more of a, some form of, I don't even know. Well, I guess the title of the article was pain zone. So yeah, a little bit of just enjoying the pain zone, enjoying a little bit of masochism. And today, let's laugh a little at what's going on. Oh, I didn't change. Well, it doesn't matter where I am. I can always change where I'm at, though. I can be down here instead. Cool. So I'm almost done with here. So please feel free to if you've got stuff you want me to read or to let me know. You can post in the Discord underneath the YouTube video. All right. Our data person is a rock star. I think we all have this, especially when we're more naive and inexperienced. We get tricked into the situation more often than not. I've helped people out of the situation or avoid the situation a few times where they are the person who's that single person that knows everything about the data stack or data infrastructure being built. And for them, I think there's this thought that I'm never going to leave, right? You're like, well, I'm never going to leave this. So I'm going to build this data infrastructure however I want, and it's going to do whatever I want. And, it doesn't matter. And then a year or two in, and you realize you need to change jobs and, because you're the only data person. So generally the business will be like, hey, our single data person, they're so smart. They're great. Whatever we ask them, if it's 3 a.m. in the morning, man, they get that done. Oh, if it's the weekends, man, they get that done. I've worked with people who had to work on reports during the weekends, and I don't know how they got convinced to do it, but they would do reporting on the weekends, and I just felt so bad. And yeah, those people are going to quit eventually. So, there is something to be said that like the business might think this person's never going to leave or act like they're never going to leave, but they'll leave. They will leave. And so you want to make sure you're building a data infrastructure that matches your company, right? Whatever that means, data infrastructure that's like your company can maintain once someone leaves, because not everyone can afford to hire more than one person. That makes sense. But you need to fit the right amount of work for that one person, or you're going to be going a few steps back. Probably as soon as they figure out their... Sorry, I'm a... Hey man, why don't you upload a video for becoming a DE in 2025 for the sake of it? I maybe I will. I feel like I've done one almost every year. Like I'm trying not to do those videos, although it's tempting because even though I've done a few of them, they always do well. I'm just like, it's how it is, right? Like those are the videos that do well. I might, but honestly, it's just not. I'm trying to be a little bit different. Like I'm like, what else do I need to cover that's not covered? So, hey Ben, just got a career-based question. Recently got an offer for senior DE, but I'm also interviewing for AE roles. What do you think should be the right path for staff, or is there one? I'm assuming you mean staff DE. The few things I would need to also know here is like context. You want to be in a place that you can learn. I mean, that's the big thing, right? Like, or you can grow. So I would be looking for opportunities where at this point you need to start being picky, right? Like if you're going more towards that, you're a senior DE and you need to start growing. You need to start having projects that aren't just I implemented Snowflake or something. It needs to be I drove something in the business, right? Like I was able to find some value and I made it happen, and it was a really cool project, and I'm excited to talk about it. You don't want to go somewhere where it doesn't feel like you can drive exciting things. Is my feeling there is don't go to a company just because the role is cool, the tools are cool. I would really start looking for places that you feel like have a very unique need that you can answer and that you're excited to answer. Because again, staff, if that's the goal, there's got to be something there. Because once you get to staff, you'll realize it's like, well, I'm here and that's it, right? A good way of explaining this. Look, I got that the behind me somewhere. I don't know if you can see. I got the 100K YouTube plaque, and it's cool, but it isn't like it's not. It wasn't the fun part, right? The fun part was all the stuff I did to get it. So getting that title, staff data engineer, that's not the fun part. The fun part is all the work, and the interesting part is all the work you did to get there. So you got to enjoy that. Do it during New Year Eve, DE for 2025. Yeah, I think that's usually, let's see. Let me see if I go to my YouTube. Let's see. I want to say I probably did one at some point. So yeah, I did one here, right? Fastest way to start. I think this was like the 100-day to data engineering. So I do one every so often. I think I probably did one for 2023. I think I waited a little bit longer this time. I didn't do it exactly at the end of the year. Or yeah, okay, I did this one too. How to become a data engineer. So these ones are even kind of close timeline wise. So they exist. It doesn't like there are plenty of factors that don't change here too often. So yeah, let me go. Just gonna share this tab instead for now. Let's see. Hi, Ben. I'm transferring from BI Eng to DE. What do you think could be beneficial for a person who kind of understands backend but never needed to dive a little deeper? Greetings from the EU. So this is one reason that I have this 100 days of data engineering. This is not me trying to put in a plug anywhere. I just think this is kind of the idea here. The process here was, and the thinking here for me was, you will go through this data engineering with 100 days, and you'll look at it and you'll be like, wow, there's a lot of stuff here, right? What don't I like? Let me dig into what I don't understand. And so you'll dig into it. You'll realize, you'll scroll through this and you'll realize, hey, okay, I've reviewed the basics. So I've gone over some SQL and Python, etc. I feel comfortable there. Or maybe, hey, you know what? I'm really weak in SQL, or I'm really weak in programming. Let me stop and review it a little bit. And so that's kind of why I put this here. Like, speed isn't the goal, is really what I put here. Is like, I really wanted to create something that, like, as much as I say 100-day crash course, I want to like spin it around and be like, I get that we want to do things quickly, and some people will figure out ways to do it, right? Like I took like 3 years to get to 100K subscribers, and it took a long time. And there are people who've done it faster. But sometimes it's okay. Like I just think it's okay to not have to rush through it. So yeah, if you go through this and it's linked, I think you'll figure out where you're weak, and then you'll figure out what to do more of. And that's really what the goal was here. So hopefully that's at least a helpful place for you to go to. All right. I wonder if there's any good. If I go to, let's see if I go to Substack, and if there's anything that was interesting. I also just put out an article today. But this is one of the few that is not free, but I'll at least open it up here so you guys can all see it. So I've been trying to work on a book. I think some people, I've talked about this before. I'm trying to work on a book that talks about how we can do better at setting up data teams for success. And I think a lot of it starts with, understanding the business more, working with the business, and also setting up good teams. I don't know about y'all, but I've definitely worked at teams where my onboarding process was completely a mess. It took like 3 months to like get access to certain things. And even once I got access to it, it wasn't the right, data warehouse. And it was just all this back and forth. And so that's one reason I kind of put this together, was I wanted to create, I want to start creating and writing a book and putting together all the thoughts I've ever had in the last almost decade, and share them out there. So this is the most recent chapter. What was I just thinking on top of that? And then the next chapter I want to put out, and I need to like note this down. I want to put out, where should I go? I'm just gonna, while I'm thinking here, you guys can see some stuff, but that's okay. I would like to put out a new post. Where's my writing post? View all. New post, text post. I want to put out like how to find the right. I just realized the right projects, because this is something that's like really, I think, important to me for helping people figure out like what are the right projects, right, to work on, like what's actually worth doing. I think there's something to that where we just jump on things. And so I'm actually going to be doing again a live tomorrow. I need to post about it on LinkedIn, talking to Joe Reese, and one of the things we're going to talk about is like projects, like what projects make sense to take on, right? Because not all projects make sense, and that's okay. And I really want to figure out, what his thoughts are, so I can also kind of put some of his thoughts in the book that I'm putting out, but also just because it's good for me to think through and crystallize my own thinking. So yeah. Do most DEs want to become data scientists, or is that wrong transition? What is the highest ranking DE? Sorry, I like that, highest ranking. Can you become an individual contributor as a DE? I mean, you are right? Like you are an individual contributor as a DE. If you mean like high level, like a staff level, that exists. It's always going to be company dependent. There are just certain companies that do not need a massive data team, right? Like you don't need like massive or like complex data infrastructure. You just need like a data analyst that can kind of work with Power BI to set up some basic reporting, and even that might be more than you need. You just need some Excel sheets. But there are plenty of companies that need a lot of stuff, and as data becomes, I think, more multimodal, right? Like as it becomes as we get the opportunity to like store and process more easily data that is in PDFs, is in images, is in videos, I think we'll have a need for data engineering and that to expand and what that means. So, but yeah, you can become a high level individual contributor. It just depends on the company, right? Like yeah, Facebook, all those has that. I'm gonna open up. Maybe I'll just open up Excelodraw. Oh, you know what? I'm probably not logged in because I basically had to restart. Where's the login button for this? Where's login? Why is this hard? Login for Excelodraw. Sign up. Oh, no, that's Discord chat follow up. Sign up. Maybe sign up has it. Google. I hope I can still have all my drawings, because that would suck if I lost them all. Workspace name. Uh-oh. I don't like that. Nope, not liking that. Where is... is it somewhere else? What was it in? Oh no, I didn't think about Excelodraw getting lost. Oh no. This is gonna suck. How do I just get to it? I just wanna... Alright, I'll have to figure this out later. That really sucks. That's a bummer. Alright. Thanks. I see the hype around AE, and I tried DS and I hated it. Lol, even have a master's, but enabling analytics is my true passion. And Zach's bootcamp and your videos helped me find my true love. One, that's awesome. Glad you're kind of figuring it out. It takes time. Like I think that's the biggest thing is you don't have to feel like you got to figure things out day one. I take your time. Right? Don't feel like you have to figure out the exact perfect career. The data career, right, like has a lot of different paths that you can take, and so I wouldn't get too stressed if you haven't found the perfect fit. Okay, I'm gonna try to see if I can sign in here. Why won't you let me sign in? Sign out, or maybe was it GitHub? No, I'm not even signed. Oh God, I gotta sign in GitHub and Facebook. Passwordless sign in. Just trying to figure out why. I'm hoping I can figure out where I signed in originally with Excelodraw. But let's see. You haven't created a workspace yet. Well, we'll have to figure that out. Cool. Other questions. Ben, how do you balance upskilling in your current role without letting resume-driven development cloud your judgment? I think this is a fair question to ask, right? Because we need to learn new things. My view is that you should set some time or some maybe amount of work that allows you to do maybe like resume driven development. Um, it should just definitely not be the majority of your work if you can. Like, one, you have to work for a company that lets you do resume driven development, which not all companies will. They'll be like, hey, you're charging us, this is costing us way too much money. We're not going to let you do this. So there's that aspect. But also, I think, if you spend some time testing out these tools, it's good. And you can always go off and build things yourself and test things out yourself. But I think you should definitely push to have like whatever 10 or 20% of your time pushing and testing new ideas. It doesn't have to be resume driven development. It just has to be more, I'm comfortable with these tools and I understand the difference between, how maybe Databricks and Snowflake work. What's nice is these days, you don't have to have a Teradata server to do all of that, right? Instead, you can just easily spin up a Snowflake instance, spin up a Databricks instance, maybe pay nothing for some of these things because they'll have a trial period and then you're kind of done. So I think that's always kind of nice. I've heard you say in one of your podcasts that you transitioned from SQL to software engineering. What technologies did you learn to transition into software engineering? I'm curious where that came from. In my experience, I've been a data analyst. That was where I originally started. That was mostly focused on like BI, and then switched into data engineering. So not so much software engineering. Maybe Zach Wilson is a good example of someone who did I think he did SQL and data science, and then front end development and software engineering, and then data engineering. But that's not me. The software engineering is not me. Have you seen Lex Friedman podcast Cursor? Have you used it? What do you think? It's like VS Code with better ChatGPT, I think. I actually haven't used Cursor yet. Just haven't had time. I just haven't had time to like poke at it. I'm sure it's great. I'm sure it's makes coding easy. I'm always skeptical. Like a lot of people that I look up to have decided like against using it. So it's interesting, right? Like will people who don't use it become Luddites? But there is some pride in using your own thinking to finish sentences and to finish code. So I am curious on the impacts if we let that go. So yeah. But that's what just some thoughts. One more question for DS role. Is it more of ML work or a DE who understands DE plus some stats? I'd say in most cases that I've worked, data scientists were not ML engineers, right? ML engineers tend to be the people that implement code that, manage your machine learning model. Again, in my experiences. Data scientists were the people that were looking for interesting insights that could either then be implemented into a process that an ML engineer could implement, or we're just kind of creating some of the initial process, and then they'd have the data engineer implement it later on. So no, I have not experienced data scientists being what do you call it? A DE with stats experience. I mean, there are some definitely, but a lot of them I've often found are more on the research side of things. That being said, I've talked to plenty of people who do like coding and do like building systems versus being purely DS. All right, high five, Ben. Thank you. Feel free to keep asking questions. I'm gonna keep poking at this Excel draw thing. So I'm like, what did I sign in as? I'm a little bit annoyed because if I can't sign into Excel draw, that'd really suck. Man, really? I don't have a workspace? Why do you want to charge me? Can I not do this for free? Huh. Wonder if I can find Excel draw. Nope. Doesn't look like it. That's a bummer. Well, I'll have to do that later. How to master data modeling and data warehousing. It's a never-ending experience. You're always constantly learning because there's always new approaches. And the the best way is to do it is to work for a company that's working on a data warehouse project, right? That's the best way. You can read books, you can watch videos, you can take a boot camp, and you will only learn so much because real life is complicated. Man, I am now. How do I get into Excel Draw without paying for it? Or maybe that's how I. Maybe that's why I'm now. Because, all right, you know what? We'll just go here, right? Share this tab instead. Okay, because really, what happens is you think data modeling is going to be easy, right? You're like, oh, how hard can it be? And there's some basic stuff that you might have to deal with. There's often where's text? I can't see what I'm writing. It's very small. I see. There's some what do you call it? There's some easy cases to deal with, such as when you have like the invoice issue, which usually means you have like invoice header and an invoice line item. Which, just for those who maybe don't see what the issue here is, like, you've got fact tables, and they often say with fact tables, you shouldn't join them together. So now if you've got this piece of information, which will be the header, which would have like the person's like whoever bought it, buyer, seller, date, or something. And then on the flip side, or on underneath of this, you have the actual lines. So what the people bought. The granularity here, right? The finest granularity would be these lines, right? Product 1, price, quantity. And you might even have things like delivery date or something on here as well. And then you have, product 2 and product 3. And this is a simpler example. Most people will tell you should put these together. And I think that's, in my experience, unless you have very small data, that generally makes sense, because what ends up happening is if these are separate, the joins end up being pretty take a long time, and there are other issues that you run into. But what you've now created is a mix of granularity. So there's little issues that you'll run into where it's like, oh, well, they say don't mix granularity, but here we are mixing granularity because it makes sense in this specific case, but maybe not in others. And I'm sure some people would still argue with me on this one as well. But in my experience, I've seen both, honestly, and both do work. But I have experienced that when they are separate, sometimes you crap out the join, depending on what system you're on. So, but a lot of that stuff you won't figure out unless you're doing it. How does it feel working less with business as a XBI DA must be finally being at peace from my perspective. I assume you mean like, how does it feel either being a DE, or maybe you mean like not working for a company and consulting. I mean, I still work a lot. If anything, I work now more with the business. I deal with more business problems and things that have nothing to do with the technical aspect, right? I have to solve completely different problems. Like, how do we find a person with the right skill set for a job or a role? How do we make sure they're up to speed? That's on one of the projects that I've worked on in the past, where that was like a real sticking point, because they really wanted a specific skill set and everything, and helping them get up to speed and the challenges there that have nothing to do with the technical issues. So yeah, like those become much more upfront when you're consulting in particular. So our DS role is more like data strategy analysts who are a little more technical. I don't think that's what I'd say. I think they're very they just tend to use different techniques. Yeah, a little more complex statistical analysis. Some of them are heavier like programmers, but a lot of them are just really deep in I know how to do research and techniques, and if you're at Facebook, you're probably doing a lot of product analysis. Whereas if you're at some other companies, you're probably looking for methods to improve. Actually, I just put some of these examples. Let me go here, and I just put this out in my new chapter I just put out. Come on, posts. So here, and this is just a general example, but I'm gonna share this. Not sharing. Share. Where was I? Share this tab instead. So let me zoom in a little bit. So I kind of put down like maybe why you might want to hire different people. So these were use cases. Um, I mean, if like you're likely looking for someone if you're like maybe looking to reduce the downtime by predicting when equipment fails, right? Like a data scientist might do that in real life versus at Facebook, you're doing a lot of product analysis. Why are people staying with our product? Why are they leaving? So this is kind of the breakdown. And again, these are high level, and at some companies, this is all one person, right? You can't afford 3 people, you get 1. So you're always going to find there's always some gotchas there. Can you talk about slowly changing dimension snapshots are used downstream like DBT snapshot? How are they used? Only when someone needs a report which has date specific values, or always baked into the final DIMS? Trying to think of like I think the question kind of is like, when should you use slowly changing dimensions? I don't know if the DBT part. Um, my There are, I think, certain places that it makes sense to capture slowly changing dimensions regardless, because you'll likely need to report on them. The risk of you not capturing slowly changing dimensions is that you lose information, right? So at the very least, if you're not going to capture slowly changing dimensions, I'd recommend storing the files in like S3 or something. This depends on size and cost and things of that nature. But if it's not big, store the files with date stamps, timestamps, etc. on them. So if you for some reason can't right now, or you don't feel like it makes sense to bring in a slowly changing dimension for a certain dimension, you have that information, and in the future you can grab it in, because someone somewhere is going to need some historical reporting. That is one reason I think people like doing this snapshot approach, where it's just like every day I'll take a snapshot, which maybe that's what you're referring to by DBT snapshot, right? Like, oh, we'll just take a snapshot every day. But again, then that can get expensive, and it also can make some people have a hard time querying it if they don't understand that they got to query today's date and join on today's date's date partition key. So I don't know if that helps answer that question. I think for me, there are certain cases that it makes sense, especially like customer location and things of that nature, where you're obviously going to report on that, even if someone's not currently asking you to report on that. It's like, you will. I promise you, you will at some point need to add in customer location. They just ask better questions. I think we're talking about data scientists. I'm a Korean data engineer. Is it a good future versus AI, or basically I guess it's like platform kind of engineers? Thank you. I don't know what the market looks like in Korea. Obviously, I'm in the US, so that part I can't speak to. I believe moving forward, we like all that's really ends up happening over all time, right? Actually, let me go back to here. Share this instead. Right, like back here, wherever this was, I don't even know. This is not going to be like historically accurate, but like back here, somewhere in like the 2000s, right? We were mostly focusing on data that was very, probably even farther back, but like basic transactions. Like, this is the information we had. Bob bought, 3 tomatoes at my spelling. Oh yeah, I was right the first time. 3 tomatoes at 3 p.m. For 20 for some. This was in 2000, so it was probably like 50 cents. Now 3 tomatoes is like $7. Right, and that was like back here, and now, and that was like the information we were tracking. Now it's like Bob bought 3 tomatoes. It was 50 cents. He was watching, recipes on Instagram at 1 p.m. and whatever, it was clearly tomatoes, etc. This was like the 2010s or something until like now. or something. Again, this is just how I'm thinking about it. I'm sure someone can give me more historically accurate. Now, I think what's going to happen, like going forward, is like 1 p.m. We have a video of him searching the store. It took him 20 minutes to find the tomato. Like, I just view it as we're just constantly adding more and more and more layers of information that we want to capture, right? Like, now we're going to literally have like videos of people that we can take and connect to all this data and watch them, right? And this is something that, like, I gotta stop saying like, this is something that stores and grocery stores have wanted, because if you're a digital seller, right, like Amazon e-commerce store, you can track as someone goes through and you can see what products they look at. We don't necessarily have that information well stored. Sorry, I feel some banging. Could be my cat. I'll have to go check. Anyways, where was I? I'm trying to think. So they don't, for like Amazon, again, they have the ability to like track and see what everything you've done. Grocery stores haven't had that much, right? Like, they kind of just know when you come in, when you leave. I think they've done some things in terms of like figuring out how to tie your credit card to your license plate. So they kind of know also like other information as well. So they can actually guess who you are. I don't remember what paper, what I was reading when that was talking about that, how easy it is to kind of tell whose credit card goes to what license plate, because they can, if you use your credit card in like 3 or 4 different places, and if they have a picture of your license plate, they can then kind of deter, and they know who you are, they can kind of triangulate who that person was. But they don't have video of like you walking the store. So they would love to get that probably and understand, like, how did this person go through our store? Where did they stop? How could we have sold them, $3 extra worth of product? So I think that's kind of what I'm thinking. Have I tried one? Yes, I have. I mean, mostly just asking it questions. I haven't implemented it anywhere in code. I've only used it in the chat version. It's good. I mean, it works for what it does. It's funny. It still starts all like, I'll occasionally be like, okay, I can't start a topic. Like, I feel stuck on writing this article. How am I going to write it? So then I'll go and ask it just to give me an intro, and I'll look at it and be like, how is it that you keep writing it in the same way every time? I think the way like ChatGPT likes to start a lot of like data or tech articles is something like, let me write this down. It's something like ChatGPT, every time it starts an article, it's like, in this fast-paced digital environment. I spelled it wrong. All right, fine. Environment, blah, blah, blah. It's like the same way it starts, comma. It's the same way it starts everything. So sometimes this is what makes me a little upset when people are like, it's going to replace everything. I'm like, it literally can only come up with like 5 different ways to start things sometimes. So yeah, it's just my feeling. Do you think when we get more automation and AI, there will be more data? Congrats on the 100K. Yeah, no, thank you for that. Congrats. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what happens in my brain, is like, we're just going to be creating more stuff, more information that people are going to want to track. And maybe it'll become more necessary, because maybe if dead internet theory is right, and we just all leave the internet because we all want experiences where people will want to track that information. I think the other side, right? Like, there's kind of, it's not just 2 options, but I kind of see 2 things that might happen, right? Currently, I feel like either we're going to go down the route, and the reason I can't answer this is because I'm not like a child right now, or someone that's younger. So either we're going to go down the route that it's just going to be VR everything. Like, people are going to want to escape. And I don't think this is the only options, but this is the ways I think of the extremes. Or we're going to want in-person everything. Honestly, it's just going to be people dependent, but this is kind of where I feel like it's like, either we're going to go down this route where all the data is going to be in VR, and then that's going to be a lot of information to capture. There's going to be a lot of like, capturing people's actual movements beyond just my mouse. They're going to be capturing my voice and everything else. or it's gonna be in person, and they're gonna want to capture the in-person information. So I think those are the two spaces that we'll see possibly emerge. But again, there's more than this, and it's never black and white. But that's how I see it. ML ops versus data ops. I mean, I don't know if that's like a which is better, which job you should take. I'd say, look for something that you like doing. That's always going to be my thing. Look for something you like doing. If you like ML ops, do ML ops. If you like data ops, do data ops. They'll both have some future, in my perspective. Oh, and then I missed the YouTube sub. Next is 1 million. 1 million is a long way away. If I continue my current growth trajectory, which I haven't really changed it, I think I get like 1.8 to 2.3 thousand subscribers a month. It's a long way to 1 million, my friend. And it's not what I'm shooting for. I think I was kind of shooting for 100K purely out of like a little bit of vanity. It's kind of cool to say. It's cool to get the plaque. But now it's kind of, like I was saying earlier, like I'm at the like you got the thing, and at least when you get to the top of a mountain on a hike, there's a view. Like you get the 100,000 subscriber plaque, and it's a little bit climactic, right? It looks like cool. Again, it was the journey. It was fun. I'm glad I could share my thoughts with all of y'all. I'm glad y'all supported me. That's what's cool. It's the friends you made along the way, right? So to speak. Not necessarily the end result. And I'm trying to be more like that, or have that mentality more often, because I often rush to try to get somewhere, and just don't get lost occasionally, right? It's good to get lost occasionally. Get lost and learn something, and don't feel like you have to rush through every experience. And I can say that now a little easier now that I feel a little more settled. Part of that's getting older. Part of that's having been lucky and gotten a job at a big tech company, and having that financially put me in a good place. But I really want to make sure that I'm not, I don't know, rushing too much, because it's my nature for sure. Like my nature is definitely to I want to rush. Let's go to the next thing. Let's go to the next thing. Let's go to the next thing. So I'm trying to reflect a little more, spend more time, and relax. So cool. I'm still wondering what that sound was earlier. Like earlier, I had someone banging on my roof, or maybe it was my cat. Was Facebook your first job? No, it was not. I'm glad it wasn't my first job. I would be a very spoiled person. Like I'm already like, we had a group at Facebook called Face World Problems, which I think you can kind of tell the what that means. Which it basically is like all the problems we face that go beyond even first world problems, because you would have struggles that are non-existent. And I remember I had one face world problem, and and that's what I'm saying. Like, it would have been worse if I had not worked. I worked in fine dining before I worked at Facebook, and before I worked at Facebook, or before I did that, I worked at a healthcare company, a healthcare analytics startup, and then before that, a hospital, where I drove like an hour plus to work. When I worked at Facebook, I was 1 mile away from campus. I mean, I was happy as a clam in terms of that. Like the one thing, if I could never have to do again, is have to drive for a job, which right now I don't have to. But if I ever get another job somewhere, that's traffic's the worst. But what my face world problem, and I'll let you know the time I was an asshole, and I completely own it. And I was like, oh my god, this is terrible. So the Facebook campus in Menlo Park has like an ice cream store, essentially. Think like Baskin Robbins, whatever. They got like 10, 20 flavors. It's nice. Like, it's free. Again, it's free. You just go in there, you ask for whatever you want, you get it. The New York campus, which I got to go to, I think 2 or 3 times. It's kind of fun. I like being I like being on East Coast time. You got to be 3 hours ahead. That's always fun. Had a gelato, basically a gelato store. It was way nicer. It was like it was on the Instagram floor. So it was just like the Instagram floor in general already kind of was, more vibey, was prettier. They kind of took that effort to make it feel like Instagram. and it was much nicer, and it was gelato. And I made a quip. It's kind of just a joke, but I think it was enough seriousness to like where I said it, and I was like, I hate myself for saying that. After saying it, and I kind of complained to my manager. It just was like, I don't know, it was just like a thought. I was like, man, I'm just so jealous that they get gelato. We only get ice cream. And I said it, and as I said it, I was like, yeah, that's no one else gets, like, who gets ice cream at work? Like, we're in crazy world here. This is not reality. This is not real, right? This is not like I have worked for places where when I first started working for corporate, I remember I went to a dinner, and it was like a Christmas dinner, and I thought I had to pay for myself because I worked in fine dining, and whenever you went out with everyone, you always had to pay for yourself because no one has money. And so I ordered the cheapest thing on the menu, which was like pizza. Everyone else ordered steak. And I'm like, man, why is everyone ordering steak? And then of course at the end I figure out, oh, this was covered by the company. I am just a different mentality. So yeah, when I had that like moment, that face roll problem, like I need to get back to reality, guys. So it's very funny, very, very interesting moment. All right. I'm a third grader. Oh, yes. Okay. So you're like your third year. I want to be a data engineer, so I'm looking for it into it these days. How should I learn when I first projects? What framework should I use? Again, I'm gonna just I need to be able to pin this because I think I'll just keep sending this one over and over again. Let me find this. Hold on, stats. Oh, I should search 100. This is just a good way to like figure out where you're at. So I'm just gonna put this in here again. It's 100 days of data engineering. It's will try to take you longer than 100 days unless you have time. If you have a job and kids, it's going to take you longer. But if you're by yourself, you might be able to do this. It'll just let you know where you're at. It'll go through some of these things and answer some of these questions. Oh man, we're asking like some real questions that I might not be the best person to answer, but yeah, I think that was definitely interesting seeing people that kind of sat more on the ML AI side get some of these awards. I think what you'll likely see is really smart technical people will always be really smart and technical, right? Like there are just people that are considerably smarter and harder working than some of us. Like I am not anywhere near where, whatever the distribution is, right? It's like, it's, oh, that's annoying. I don't want that thick. Whatever the distribution is, it's like, that's still kind of thick. That's not what I want either. How would I even do this? It's very heavily tilted in the wrong direction to where like, there's just a lot more, like there's not a lot of smart people. And there's a lot of just us, like very average. And the people that are over here and over, right? They'll figure out far smarter, they'll see more opportunities than we see is how I feel about that. So we'll see. I think they'll just be amplified in theory. Or at best, maybe some of these things help us average people be a little bit smarter. I don't know. But yeah, I think we'll see this for a little bit. But we've had AI winters before, and so I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh yeah, it's going to change the world. I'm like, well, we'll see. They're having to hype it up really hard, so we'll see. I would relocate for gelato. Face roll problem. I like that. Was that the NY campus on FB? If FB asked you back, would you join Fang or FB? It would, for the right project and for the right amount. I think definitely for the right project, right? That will always. I think at this point, it's got to be the right thing. Like even if I were to go back and work full time at a company, it's like it's got to be really like a really interesting problem or a really big opportunity that would be dumb to say no, right? Like it's the whole like if someone asks you to join a rocket ship, you don't ask which seat, you just jump in. If I saw a rocket ship of a company and they asked me, like, I'd be like, yeah, I'll do it. So yeah, for the right company, for the right project, if I felt like it was delivering something I was interested in, and obviously also for the right amount. Like everyone has a number. Like I'm not going to pretend like I don't have a number that if someone said it, but I'm just, I don't know. I'm enjoying right now. Right now is nice. I'm at New York campus in Manhattan. My mind skipped words sometimes. Yeah, there's a few buildings. I don't know if they got rid of any of them. COVID kind of brought it down in a few places. But I think there's like 2 or 3 buildings in Manhattan. That yeah, it was one of those. I don't remember which one it was, but I know there's a few buildings. So I remember I had to like walk to one because I had a meeting in one and a meeting in another, and I was like, geez, why do I have to go to 2 different ones? But yeah, it was in Manhattan. We it was interesting, and actually I think so. My manager's no longer working at Facebook, and neither is the person that I think signed off on this. We did a thing where I think everyone just wanted to go to New York on our team. I was just asked, do I want to go to New York? I didn't really think about this. I think they've probably hammered down on some of this stuff, but we flew, I think, like 9 people to meet 2 people in New York, and I think our team got a little bit chewed out after that. They're like, you sent 9 people when you could have said 2 people. I think everyone just wanted to go to New York. And we're like, yeah, we don't want to go to New York, so we just went to New York. But again, sometimes you do things like that. I assume it was fun though. It was good. It was good to be there. What else do I remember about New York? And it was Christmas time. That's what I also remember. It was Christmas time. I remember it felt like I was like, wow, this actually feels like every time I've seen New York, it's often in Christmas. Or like in movies and stuff. So it felt kind of very, very apt. Also, thank you for the sub. I appreciate that. I think, yeah, sounds like I'm on Twitch suddenly. Thanks for the subs, guys. No, yeah, cool. We've been going for an hour. I hope this has been kind of fun for y'all. I've been doing this like every day. Tomorrow, we're gonna have Joe Reese on. We're going to be talking about projects and what projects you should take on, and defensive projects versus offensive projects. So I'm excited for that. We'll see if he can talk about where he's going and where he's been. He's always traveling. We do text occasionally, and as soon as I saw this, he wrote an article about this. I was like, I want to talk to him about this because I'm working on my next chapter for my book, and it's kind of on that topic. So I'd love to kind of get like a diagram. I envisioned this diagram that's, and I think maybe half of this is because I want this diagram. I envisioned this diagram that's just, what are offensive projects or even initiatives. Like maybe it's not a specific project versus defensive. Like what kind of fits in these various spaces in data world. I assume, to me, I'm thinking like migrations, but only like there's a caveat here, like migrations only when you're doing it because you don't know what else to do, right? You're like, well, I read that if we move to Databricks, it'll be better. There are necessities for migrations where they are offensive. I always use the example of when Netflix, they have got this article where they talk about how, what do you call it? How they had to like move their current, like they had like a traditional OLAP and they needed to move it to more of a streaming based OLAP because their data warehouse is basically going to not be able to handle it in the future. So that to me is offensive. Like you've looked ahead of time, you already know that, hey, we're going to run out of space. But there's these migrations that people do for like to save. They just want to say like, hey, we can save $10,000, which is a lot of money, right? But in theory, there's a certain point where you want to stop saving money and start driving change, right? Unless it's really big amounts of money, right? Because you can probably find somewhere, hopefully, that you drive $100,000 and you want to invest your time there more than you want to invest your time and try to save $10,000. So it's kind of like working out or like trying to penny pinch when you're not actually working on the other problem, which is you eventually have to just make more money, right? It's great to not buy coffee. I'll drink because I paid for coffee this morning. It's great to not pay for coffee. Sure, it'll save you a little bit, but really the bigger problem is you need to make more money. So same thing here with projects. Do you like Prime React? No, I really do like it. Like he's got a really good take. I can tell that he's thought a lot about things, and I think that's something I appreciate. I feel like I haven't had time to reflect recently. And so sometimes he says things or draws things. I'm like, yes, that's exactly what, you captured how I'm thinking, you're feeling a lot. What other programmer YouTubers do you follow? Let's see. Who have I been following recently? I mean, I've been, let's see. What else have I been listening to or following? I feel like there was something I was listening to. What was I listening to recently? I feel like it's a lot of primary acts recently, definitely. So I'm like, anything else? Um, we'll stick there, but I'll have to come back to that one at some point. I feel like, sorry, prime time, yeah, prime time, Primeagen, yeah. I'm on the last chapter of Fundamentals of Data Engineering. Serendipity, exactly, serendipity. If you could choose a career that isn't in IT, what would you do? That's a good question because I had a career out before IT. I worked in fine dining. It was a lot of fun. I really appreciated that we could take time and feel like we were craftsmen sometimes. I mean, we're making food, so sometimes I'm like, it's a little silly. When I watched the menu, I felt like some parts of the menu in terms of like a movie were like way over exaggerated and way overplayed. But there are parts in it that feel real where I remember, so I worked at this restaurant. It's called the Herb Farm in Seattle. I just was looking to book some dinner there recently, and I realized I was like, man, it's gotten a lot more expensive since when I was there. I feel like it's like $400 a person with the wine. So, but still, it's not cheap. But when I worked there, I remember we would actually research everyone that came in, right? Like we wouldn't. They had a staff upstairs, and I would look at all these people, and part of me wanted to be on the other side. Like part of me is like, this is like, oh, look at this person works at Amazon. This person works as some director somewhere. Oh, of course they can afford here. I want to be on that side. But then there was a few dinners we did. I think it was like a New Year's dinner, and people paid like over $1,000 to do it or to be there per person. And I was kind of like, but why? Right? Like there's a little bit like you strive for so much. You strive to like make this food to elevate the experience for people, and you're just like, but why? So I did like food. I don't know if I'd go back. If I did, it would be something simpler like ramen or something. Even though I don't know how to do ramen actually. I have a friend who does it, and I've been trying to convince him forever to open up his own place because he like makes the noodles from scratch, makes amazing broth, everything. But it would be something simpler. I really do like. I think what I found is just really good tasting food over really refined food that sometimes doesn't always taste as good, in my opinion. So I don't know if I do fine dining. I don't know. What would I do? That's a good question. If you ever want to stump someone, ask them what they would do if money was an option. Because that's like even sometimes I don't know. It's like you travel, but for how long would you travel? You can only travel so much. I have a friend who was in that situation, and he sold his company and he traveled, and then he got bored. Like he was like, all right, I'm done with this. What's next? Right. So it's a really kind of a scary question to ask yourself. What would you do if you had unlimited time or unlimited time, but like you didn't have any need to work? And I honestly sometimes don't know the answer. Like I'll pick up new hobbies probably. I picked up gardening this year. That was fun. Um, I what else? I don't think I'd be a good farmer though. Like it's a lot more work, right? Like it's one of those things that people say like, I want to become a farmer. It's like that's a lot of work. Um, do you actually want to do that? And it's a lot of stress, and it's very expensive. I guess money's no problem, but it's very expensive. But I think that would be something I'd at least think about and try. What else would I do? I don't know. That's a good question. What would they do? I would definitely not. I would definitely not stare at a computer all day. I like the work, but there's just something where I do miss being more tactile. Oh, I do want to like my parents have a property, and my dad is in construction, and he wants to build a bunch of houses on it. He's got a very great vision where we would all move there and we'd all have a house there, and I love it. It's very cute. But I would love to like go and help him build the houses, and I think that's something I would do, right? Because I think that's a skill I would appreciate having. It's real. It makes you feel like you're building something in real life. So I think there would be something like that. Not staring at a computer, building things in real life would be probably what I'd be doing. So yeah. I think you would teach because you're a good teacher. I appreciate that. I'm trying to teach. I'm trying to figure out how to like in this regard. I'm trying to figure out how to make content that's better. That's why I'm trying out some new ideas and like trying to go back to the basics and some of this stuff and not try to feel like I have to do the like how to become a data engineer in 2025 video. I might still do it. Like I'd be the first to admit that like occasionally I feel like, oh man, my videos haven't been getting a lot of views, and then you want views, and then you make a video that you feel like will get views. But I'm trying to fight that urge and instead do videos that are either not done or just done in a way that I want to do it. So I think that's something that I'm trying to poke around more at. And I'm trying to write this book. That's the other thing. It's like, I know I keep bringing that up, but that is like, I want to, just in case for some reason I do end up switching careers, or go somewhere else, I want all my knowledge of like working in data and like data engineering to be captured somewhere. So that way I can feel like I always had it. Cause I never got to do that in the culinary world. And I had so much, like knowledge that I felt like I built up. I still have some of it, but I definitely don't have as much, or at least it's not as accessible in my brain. It's somewhere G-zipped in a file. And yeah, every once in a while I'm a little bummed by that. I'm like, it's somewhere, but I don't know where it is. Gotta go find it. Book for DE. Yeah, this is more of a book for data leaders. Because Joe wrote a book, that covers the fundamentals well. And it's really hard, I think, to build or to write a book that is very specific in the DE world, because there's that pocket book for data pipelines, and I want to say it's like Redshift, and I don't remember what else. I think they use Glue in it. It's like Redshift and Glue, and Glue's not necessarily old, and Redshift's not like people still use it, but it definitely has fallen out of favor, and it definitely only speaks to certain people, right? And so I think that's one of the hard things. So that's I don't think it's going to be specifically for DEs. It'll be more broad, or not more broad. In some ways, it's narrower. It's like data leaders. So yeah. But no, I think that's teaching is fun. Did you cook? What did you do in hospitality working in a restaurant? Yeah, so I cooked. I worked. First restaurant I worked at was a restaurant called Cafe Juanita in Woodinville, or Juanita technically. It's near Woodinville. It's in a place called Juanita near Kirkland in Seattle. Well, in Washington, but near Seattle. And I worked initially as a stage, which just means you work for free and you pick a bunch of time and you chop a bunch of shallots. And then I got impatient, as most of us do. I was 16. And I was like, I want the next thing. I want to plate salads, or do garde manger kind of work. So eventually went to a different restaurant. Went to a few different restaurants, kind of more middling restaurants. Like Cafe Juanita is really nice. Saw a bunch of things, did some turn and burn places where I actually got to work on a hotline. I got kicked off a hotline once at another job just because I'd never worked a hotline, which is, hotline is just where the heat is, pans heat. I barely turned 18, and I was working with a bunch of people that were like 26 plus, and I don't know why they put me on a hotline. They're like, let's let the 17-year-old barely 18 kid try to figure this out. I ended up getting kicked off because I just couldn't handle it. It was hard. I eventually got better. I eventually worked at another restaurant on a hotline and got better, right? Like anything else. I think that's, if I could tell anyone, just keep going through those motions, even when you suck at something. There's a lot of times that I've sucked at things, and you figure it out. Because I remember having to fight through that. The next day I had to work like an opening and a closing or something of that nature. And the opening chef was like, Ben, man, someone slipped this morning. I'm like, oh man, someone slipped. Yeah, they slipped on your tears. I was like, all right, thanks. Yeah, I feel great right now. But I think that's something that's been helpful. It's like you kind of just got to push through some of those moments, and eventually you'll get better at things. So I eventually got better at that. And then the last restaurant I worked at, the Herb Farm, what was nice there is we just did one seating a night. And so it was one seating all at the same time. So you just had to prep like 50 of one dish and then push it out, and then 50 of one dish and then push it out. So we were very refined. So the prep was harder, but the service was super chill. Other than like maybe the first week when you're getting into the motion of a new menu, because we do a new menu every 3 weeks or so. But other than that first week, like it'd be such a chill job other than prepping, because you do everything from like hand by hand. Like we did this 100-mile dinner where everything had to be from 100 miles away. But yeah, so no, it seems like questions are kind of falling out. I appreciate everyone who's been here. Again, you're going to probably see this chart at some point, so you guys can all know you saw it first if you read my newsletter. Hopefully, I'm going to talk to Joe Reese about that tomorrow, so don't miss that. That'll be fun. I'll put it up hopefully soon. But yeah, I appreciate you all for showing up. This is all fun. I really enjoy it. Just having kind of a break from my day, a break from coding, a break from I was trying to write this article earlier. I was trying to put it out, so I'm always really stressed because I have a decent amount of readers, and once you have a decent, like the thing no one tells you, once you have like 100,000, almost 100,000 readers, and you know your content's going out to 100,000 people, every time I click publish, I'm like, I'm gonna make a mistake. Someone's gonna laugh at me. Someone's gonna make me, someone's gonna make me cry. I don't think I've had anything too bad. I don't think anyone's ever called me out, which is surprising for 100,000 people, even with not everyone reading it, but it's good. So again, I appreciate your time. Hopefully this was kind of fun. I'll keep kind of playing around with this a little bit, trying to figure out what lives you like, what topics you like. Again, feel free to send me topics. What time do you know when you're going live? Yes, let me look back. I think it's like 10 o'clock. It's not my calendar. Open up my calendar. I'm going to put it out hopefully on, it's 10 o'clock Mountain Time. I'm going to post about it on LinkedIn, so you'll see it. But it'll be 10 o'clock. So let me answer this question really fast. So alternatives to Redshift and AWS and Glue, you recommend? I have the opportunity to help build data warehouse from the ground up. I mean, what does your company need, right? Snowflake might be a good fit. Databricks might be a good fit. I honestly am not a huge fan of Postgres works. A lot of people like to say it. I guess it just feels like a lot of extra lifting. But if you want to keep cheaper, I mean, Postgres is fine. SQL Server, I think I generally kind of like more than Postgres, but I don't even know why. I think it's just because I used it more as kind of a data warehouse. Even though there's an argument to be made that it's not a data warehouse from a physical point of view, but you can logically implement a data model on it that is a data warehouse. But I mean, there's really any of those will probably work. It's going to come down to things like cost and what you're using it for and things of that nature. I need to maybe I need to make the diagram I'd have to make to say when do you pick one of these tools versus another would be kind of interesting. I think it would take a long time. And plus then you're always going to have that opinionated person be like, well, technically, in this case, I think Snowflake is a bad fit. I think Databricks is better. Or technically, why don't you just use, Trino? So it's one of those things that people just have favorites, and that's how it is. You got to realize you have favorites. And the reason I don't like Redshift is, they might have fixed some of these things, but they just had all these. It's built off of. I want to say it was built off of Postgres originally. I don't remember what the company was that Amazon bought it from, but they built it essentially off Postgres, and it was like a startup. And then that startup got bought by Amazon. Then they built Redshift, and it's just constantly basically being held back by that one design decision. It's like, okay, well, we're kind of always limited by the fact that we didn't build this from the ground up and build a cloud data warehouse. So anyways, I'll talk to you all tomorrow and hopefully Friday. But other than that, guys, I appreciate all your time, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks all. Bye. Oh, man.